good morning. I am going to today do the Life of Pi by Ian Mortel. So you're probably wondering, why am I doing this? I am currently busy tutoring my cousin, and I thought that since I'm doing this for my cousin anyway, I might as well just upload it to my channel and make double points, just to contextualize you a little bit, I was an English teacher in the past before I was teaching history, but I never taught it up to grade 12 level. But I did go up to grade 11 level, so I pretty much know what I'm talking about. I haven't ever been a marker for grade 12 English, so please forgive me if I'm maybe saying things that are not relevant to the marking process, but I'm basing everything that I'm doing here on past papers and how the questions have been asked in the past. I'm also doing this with the assumption that you have read the first 15 chapters of the book. All right, so let's just jump into The Life of Pi by Ian Mortel. I have a story that will make you believe in God. Big statement. That is said by Francis Adiru-Basami to the author. And this is one of the quotes that really stuck out to me as I was going through the book, because it made me think, what does it mean to believe in God? What makes someone believe in God? For some people, it's just faith, like you just believe there must be something more out there. We can't just suddenly appear out of nowhere. There must have been a greater being or something that created us. For other people, they are maybe atheists, and believing in God is a matter of logic. Well, if you want to believe in God, you need to ask the questions of evolution. You need to ask the questions of who created God. Like, you get all of these things, and if God is all-knowing, then can he be good because he's allowing bad things to happen? There's also other questions that come up. What sort of things will make you believe in God? Maybe you were raised in a certain religion and that's why you believe in God. Or maybe you've had a personal journey or a story or something that happened in your life that made you believe in God. So it's just something that I want you to sit back and think about as we go through this novel. Just what kind of story do you think would make you believe in God? Right, so the story, you'll see it said by a character within the story called Francis Adiru-Basami. He's also known as Mamaji. It's like a affectionate term for an uncle. And then it's said to the author. Now, what you'll notice here is that I put author in capital letters, the A in capital letters. That's because the author is actually a character. Now, you don't know this in the beginning. When you open up the book for the first time, you see there's a massive author's note. I think it's about 3-4 pages long. And if you read it, it all sounds very official, very real, like this is Ian Mortel, except there's a few things that just stick out to you as not quite right, because he speaks about Pi as if Pi is a real person. And he sort of mixes up fact and fiction in this author's note. Now, if you don't know the story, you won't pick up on this. But after you've read it and you go back and you'll say, that's not right. That doesn't sound right. So it's at that point that you'll realize that the author himself is a character in the story. It is not Ian Mortel. And this mixing up of fact and fiction is a major theme that actually goes throughout the entire book, where Pi basically has 2 different stories that he's telling. And you, as the person that's reading it, once you finish the book, you need to decide which of the stories really stick with you and which of the stories you believe. All right, so let's go on and have a look at the character list. So the most important character that you have to know is obviously Pai Patel. He is the main character and he survives 227 days on a lifeboat. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go through it clockwise, starting with Richard Parker. Now, the first time we hear Richard Parker in the book, we don't know that it's a tiger. It sounds like it's a person, and that is done on purpose because the whole book has this theme of giving human characteristics to animals and giving animal characteristics to humans. So by calling this full-grown Bengal tiger Richard Parker instead of what he was originally named, which was Thirsty, it kind of shows that it's got kind of human characteristics, because a human has a name and a surname, and a tiger would be called Thirsty. But now this tiger is called Richard Parker. So we kind of get confused as we go through the novel because Richard Parker kind of becomes humanized and we kind of forget that he's a tiger. But the novel very clearly reminds us at certain points that Richard Parker is a tiger. So the next character we'll look at is the Frenchman and the cook, who are adrift in the lifeboat with Pai Patel just in the beginning. So Richard Parker kills the Frenchman and Pai kills the cook. Moving along, you've got Tomohiro Okamoto and Atsuro Chiba. They are officials from the Japanese Ministry of Transport, and they interview Pai about the shipwreck. Then you've also got Mr. Kumar and Mr. Kumar, who are two very important people in Pai's youth. They basically teach him about the world and about life, but each one has a sort of different way of looking at life. The first, Mr. Kumar, is a Muslim guy. He's a baker, and he believes in basically looking at the world through the eyes and through the perspective of Islam. And then you've got the other Mr. Kumar, who is an atheist and a biology teacher. So they are kind of at odds at each other. But Pai, when he listens to them, he takes what he understands from both of them and he combines them and he accepts both of their worldviews. Then you've got the author, who is the novel's narrator, not to be confused with Jan Martel. The author is not Jan Martel. The author is a fictional character that tells Pai's story after interviewing him. And then you've got Mr. Adiru Basami, or Mama G, who is an elderly man the author meets, who kind of brings him to Pai and tells him that Pai's story will make him believe in God. Then you've got Orange Juice, who is an orangutan who Pai loves and humanizes. And you've got Santosh Patel, who is Pai's father, who owns and runs the Pondicherry Zoo. And he also has a major impact on Pai's life because he teaches him to be humane and to respect animals, which ultimately saves his life later on in the novel. So let's have a look at part 1. So at this point, I am assuming you have read through chapter 1 to chapter 15. I learned the lesson that an animal is an animal, essentially and practically removed from us, twice, once with father and once with Richard Parker. A theme is a message that the story is trying to develop, and it is important to make the story meaningful. In Life of Pi, there are many themes, but these are the main ones: religion and faith, heart and reason, reality and illusion, survival. In the exam, your essay question will revolve around one of the themes of the novel. One of the more popular ones is survival, and how Pi basically uses what he's learned in his youth to survive. The reason the survival thing is so important is because it actually encompasses all of the other themes. So the theme of religion and faith helps Pai to survive. This idea of going via your heart and going via reason, that also helps Pai to survive. And that kind of blurring of the boundaries between reality and illusion also helps Pai to survive. So all of these basically feed into that idea of survival, but in different ways. So the first thing we're going to look at is heart versus reason, and we're going to really zoom in on what's in a name. So Pi's name, his full name, is Basine Molitor Patel. It is the name of a swimming pool in France, and if we were to literally translate it into English, it would be something like fish. This already tells you something about Pi. He's named after a swimming pool, which kind of speaks to his ability to swim. He is actually the only person in his family that knows how to swim. And therefore, when we get to that later scene where there's the shipwreck and all of that, this is the reason that Pi survives. If you look at the literal meaning of his name, which is fish, it shows you that this idea of the swimming, this idea, and how fish actually becomes his savior later on when he catches his first fish and he basically eats the fish. And it shows his descent from being a human to a more animalistic, focusing on just living and giving up his morals and his vegetarianism to basically survive. There's also a chapter in the book where Pi's name, Pacine, ended up with him getting teased by other students where they called him Pissing Patel instead of Pacine. So he encountered that and it really affected him deeply. So he decided he needs to make a change. And he changes his name to Pi, which he is referred to for the rest of the novel. And pi refers to the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. Basically, it's a circle. It's that idea of going from one point to another point, a complete 360 degrees. It's transformative, right? He is transforming his name from Pissing Patel to Pi Patel. And he basically, it gives you a hint of Pi's character, how he uses his reason and his logic to overcome his struggles. This is the first kind of step where you can see that Pi is actually a very intelligent character. He's being teased, but he turns that around to kind of his advantage. And he also trains the other people. He repeats over and over in each class, my name is Pi Patel. This is 3.1, blah, 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 blah. I don't know the Pi. But he does that so that people can now call him Pi instead of Pissing Patel. And it kind of has this idea of foreshadowing. Now, this is a literary device. Foreshadowing basically means that I'm telling you something now that's going to be important later. It's like if I'm telling you a story and I said, Jenny put the gun on the table. And you, as the audience that's sitting and you're listening, you're like, oh, that gun is on the table. Something's going to happen. So Pi's name itself is the foreshadowing. How he trains these young children to call him by the name he wants them to call him. That is also foreshadowing to how he later trains the tiger, Richard Parker. So this is a quote from the novel where he says, my name is Basine Molitor Patel, known to all as Pi Patel. Pi equals 3.14. So pi being an irrational number, a number that goes over and over and over and it doesn't repeat itself. It also speaks to Pi's kind of irrational manner of accepting all different religions, of trying to find a common ground between his faith and his reason. Pi kind of doing things that are outside of the norm. So by calling himself Pi, he kind of refers to that idea of that irrational and the irrationality. So that's what it tells us about Pi as a character. Then you also have Mr. Kumar and Mr. Kumar. Both of their names are Satish, and both of them affect Pi's life very, very deeply. The first, Mr. Satish Kumar, is his biology teacher. So biology meaning the study of life and the study of the natural world. He is a communist and an atheist. Why is that important? Because to him, reason is the most important thing. And his influence on Pi's life leads Pi to actually study zoology, which is the study of animals, and really focuses on that idea of logic, reason, you need to be an intellectual. Then you also have Mr. Satish Kumar, who is the Muslim. He works in a bakery and his whole idea is heart. So we love the world, we love these animals. And he leads Pi to study theology or religion. So what is the significance of these two figures having the same name? It really shows that that boundary sort of between logic and heart, reason and heart. Both of them at one point look at a zebra and they see it as this amazing animal. And you can see these two people that are completely at odds with each other. They come together with this beautiful zebra and discuss it and basically love it. So it shows that even though logic and reason and heart are kind of in two different boxes, there are points where they come together. And we've got Pi that is very much influenced by both of them, and he doesn't want to be in this box that says this is reason and this is heart. He wants to combine the two. And it's thanks to that combination that he is able to survive. He uses both his reason and he uses his faith or his heart to help him survive. The most dangerous animal in the zoo is another scene that really sticks out to me as I read through the novel. It's a scene where Pi's father takes Pi to this mirror or to this place. He states that the humans prey on all life. And in his zoo, in Pondicherry Zoo, he hides a mirror behind the curtain. And when the person pulls the curtain apart, it says, "Do you know which is the most dangerous animal in the zoo?" And you will think behind this curtain it's going to be a tiger or a lion or maybe some big cat or a dangerous animal. But when you pull the curtain apart, you just see a mirror and it reflects yourself. So why does Pi's father do this? He tries to get the zoo's visitors as well as Pi to change their way of thinking about themselves. It foreshadows, remember that word foreshadows, kind of giving you a hint of what's going to happen in the future, of how Pi will give in to his animalistic nature to survive at the sea. It shows that humans and animals are two sides of the same coin, right? It could also foreshadow the dual role of animals and humans and how they are interchangeable. So if you know the entire story, you would know that he speaks about orange juice, the orangutan, he speaks about the hyena, he speaks about the zebra, he speaks about the tiger. And then at the end of the story, he gives a whole different story where he replaces these animals with people. And we kind of get lost between who's the animal and who's the person, you know? Right, so let's go on. So this is how it could be asked in the exam. I'm really only focusing on the first couple of chapters in this little section. So this is how it was asked in the November 2019 NSC exam. So I'm going to read extract A to you. Mr. Patel said, "Ravi, Paseen, I have a very important lesson for you today." "Oh, really? Is this necessary?" interrupted Mother. Her face was flushed. I swallowed. If Mother, normally so unruffled, so calm, was worried, even upset, it meant we were in serious trouble. I exchanged glances with Ravi. "Yes, it is," said Father, annoyed. "It may well save their lives." "But Paseen, he's only 8, Mother insisted. "He's the one that worries me the most." "I'm innocent," I burst out. "It's Ravi's fault, whatever it is. He did it." "What?" said Ravi. "I haven't done anything wrong." He gave me the evil eye. "Shush," said Father, raising his hand. He was looking at Mother. "Geeta, you have seen Paseen. He's at that age where boys run around and poke their noses everywhere." "Come with me," said Father. We set out like prisoners off to their execution. We left the house, went through the gate, and entered the zoo. We came to the big cats, our tigers, lions, and leopards. Babu, their keeper, was waiting for us. We went round and down the path, and he unlocked the door to the cat house, which was at the center of a moated island. We entered. "Tigers are very dangerous," Father shouted. "I want you to understand that you are never, under any circumstances, to touch a tiger, to pet a tiger, to put your hands through the bars of a cage, even to get close to a cage. Is that clear? Ravi? Ravi nodded vigorously. Paseen? I nodded even more vigorously. And that is an extract from chapter 8. So let's see how that would be asked in the exam. So these are only 4 questions. These, like I explained earlier, it's from the 2019 exam. You'll see that each question is worth 3 marks. So it gives you 3, 6, 9, 12 marks. Then there's a subsequent extract with more questions, but those ones will be based on later chapters in the novel. Since we are only doing chapters 1 to 15 now, we're just going to look at this one. So let's have a look at the first question. Account for Mr. Patel's insistence on teaching Pi a very important lesson. So what does this mean? Whenever we see the word account, it is a question word which is known as inference, which basically wants you to interpret the text, meaning the answer is not in the text. You need to think about it a little bit. You need to look for clues. You need to think about the characters, the themes, the symbols, and you need to use your own knowledge to show understanding. It's a bit of a difficult question, but the word account basically means give the reason behind an action or event. So give a reason for Mr. Patel's insistence on teaching Pi a very important lesson. So one of the reasons we can give is we can say that Mr. Patel is worried about how Pi gives animals human characteristics. Now this you would only know if you actually read through the novel and you saw how Pi was as a young boy, very friendly with the animals and all of that. And this is why his dad is so concerned. Then you can also say that he is worried about that Pi will find himself in a life-threatening situation due to his friendliness with animals. Myself, I had a situation like that where we went to the beach and I saw a Dussie and I thought, oh, it's so cute. And I stuck my finger out and I got bitten. So that is sort of why the father is insisting that Pi needs to learn this lesson, because he might be in a situation where he needs to understand that an animal can really hurt you, and not all animals are friendly, right? They're wild. That leads us to the third point. He wants to teach Pi that an animal is an animal and it is dangerous, okay? So that's why he's insisting on teaching Pi a very important lesson. So what do you notice here? You'll say there's 1, 2, 3. I've given 3 reasons, and each idea that I give is 1 mark, giving me a total of 3 marks. So when you go into the exam and you get a question like this and you see there's 3, that means you need to give 3 reasons why Mr. Patel would insist that Pi needs to learn this lesson. 9.2, refer to line 13. We set out like prisoners off to the execution. Explain what this image reveals about Pi and Ravi's feelings at this point. So refer to line 13 means we actually need to go back to the text, look at line 13, and consider what does that line actually mean. We need to look at the word their execution. Now, when you think of an execution, it means you're going to die, right? So if Pi and Ravi are setting out like prisoners to the execution, they know they are in trouble, they know that they are going to be punished, something's going to happen to them, and that is why they feel so down and so worried and so anxious. So we need to explain what this image reveals about Pi and Ravi's feelings. So we're going to be mainly speaking about how they feel. If you feel like a prisoner, how do you feel like? If you feel like you're going to an execution, how are you feeling like? So the question word here again is inference. We need to interpret. The word explain means we must give the reason behind an action or event. And note, you need to refer to the text in your response. So what are these feelings that Pi and Ravi have? Firstly, you can say that Pi and Ravi are nervous. They are feeling like they're going to be punished, and they are fearful about what is waiting for them. So once again, we can see there's 3 points and 1 mark for each idea, giving us a total of 3 marks. Refer to lines 18 to 20. Tigers are very to a cage. Discuss the extent to which the lesson in this extract contributes to pie's survival. So in this case, the question words are focused on evaluation. You need to make a judgment about the text. So they say tigers are very dangerous, don't go close to the cage, all of those things. And they're asking you, what is this lesson? How does it contribute to pie's survival? Now, there is no right or wrong answer with an asterisk there. But you must give a valid reason for your thoughts. So when we speak about no right or wrong answer, you need to be able to tie the lesson to pie's survival. If you are talking about something else, you are not going to be able to answer this question. So you need to give a valid reason for your thoughts. You can't say, the lesson is a very good lesson. You need to discuss, you need to explain, you need to consider all the information and reach a conclusion. Does this lesson contribute to pie's survival? This lesson that tigers are dangerous. And looking at the novel as a whole, we can see that, yes, it did help him, because in the beginning when Pie was on that lifeboat and he went on the little raft thing, just to get away from Richard Parker, the tiger, because his father had taught him tigers are dangerous. You need to kind of go away, don't get close to them. When you answer this question, you need to refer to the text in your response, and you need to determine the extent. How true is the statement? Did this lesson actually help Pie? So let's have a look how this could be answered. The lesson focuses on the danger that tigers present. Mr. Patel forces the boys to watch the tiger attack and devour a goat. So if you look at the question, it says, discuss the extent to which the lesson in this extract contributes to Pie's survival. So one of the first marks we're going to get is to actually explain what is this lesson. And the lesson is tigers are dangerous. Then we need to discuss it. So when we discuss it, we're going to say, when Pie is stranded on the lifeboat, he is fully aware of the real danger he is facing. He realizes that his survival depends on him asserting his dominance over Richard Parker and maintaining this boundary between himself and Richard Parker. So if you have a look at what I've written there, you'll see that the first sentence there, that says the lesson. So that's 1 point just for telling me what is the lesson. And then the second point is how the lesson contributes to Pie's survival. You can see that in this case, it's not 3 marks for 3 facts. It's 3 marks for any 2 ideas well discussed. So the first thing is what is the lesson, and the second part is how the lesson contributes to his survival. So here's the last question. Discuss the significance of mother's role in Pie's second version of the story. So discuss the significance. The word significance might be a difficult word for you, but it basically just means important. Why is mother's role important in Pie's second version of the story? So who is mother? Mother is Geeta Patel. And what is the second version of the story? So this you will only know after you've read the whole book. But in the second version of the story, Pie basically tells another version beyond the one that we've just been reading to the Japanese officials. And in that version of the story, Orange Juice the orangutan is replaced by Geeta. So now we're going to discuss that. Remember, the word discuss means we need to explain what is the role of mother. So despite the trauma of the shipwreck, mother remains gentle and nurturing. She defends and protects Pie when the cook hits him for having lost the turtle. Then the other role that mother plays is that she saves Pie by pushing him towards the raft, and she attacks the French cook. And thirdly, his mother's death at the hands of the French cook basically unleashes Pie's savagery and his animalistic tendencies, where Pie actually kills someone for the first time. Because she dies, Pi learns how to fight, and how Pi learns how to be vicious and how to attack things. Her sacrifice, therefore, ensures Pi's survival because the skill of being able to defend yourself, being able to fight, is something that Pi takes with him throughout his entire journey. Is this the only response? No. Any idea well discussed will be given marks. So if you have a different idea of why mother is significant in Pi's second version of the story, you can also write that idea down, and it's not wrong. But you need to make sure that your idea has evidence from the text, and it also shows an understanding of Pi's second version of the story. So what have we learned? Firstly, if we see that something is worth 3 marks, we need to keep it in our mind that it's 3 ideas. Alternatively, we can also say that 3 marks can be 2 ideas that are very well discussed. To answer questions, we need to have an understanding of the novel as a whole. If we've only read half the novel, we wouldn't have been able to answer 9.4 because we wouldn't know the second version of the story. Questions also have different levels. You've got literal questions, which we didn't encounter in this point, but literal questions are where the answer is in the text. It's easy to see. Then you've got reorganization, where you basically have to summarize or bring together different pieces of information. For example, the question might ask you to place the extract in context. Many of my learners got stuck on the word context, but basically it just means to give the background. What happened before this extract and what's going to happen after the extract. Then you've got inference, which is what this lesson was basically focused on. Inference are questions where you need to make meaning out of the text using information that is not clearly stated. So we read, for example, about mother, but when you read the text, it doesn't say much about mother. So we need to take what we know from the novel and speak about the role that mother plays. Then we've got evaluation, questions that require you to make a judgment. So discuss to what extent the lesson contributes to Pi's survival. You now need to say, well, it either really helped Pi survive or it didn't help Pi survive. And that is a question that you need to think about, right? You need to make a judgment and you need to give proper reasoning for that. And the last type of question is appreciation. You need to give your response to the text. Now, there's no right or wrong answer there, but you need to make sure that whatever you say is backed up by what you can read in the text. So if you want to check out all of the things that I've done, and if you want to maybe read the book itself, here's a link to some of the places that you can go to basically see where I got my information from. Yeah, so the next time I'll do one of these things, I'll speak about part 2, which is chapter 16 to 32, focusing on Pi's relation to religion. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.